This episode is sponsored by Fake Fragrance. More on them later. Oh, LeBron James watch collection. God, I hate him, and I think he's an industry plant, and I think he's everything bad with the watch community.
That was a hefty pour. I just realized that.
Oh, my God. What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch.
Can we leave this on the table?
Just say you're Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Sam, and I'm drinking Tito's.
And today, Sam's really dying for Tito's sponsorship because he wants a piece of it. Today, we're talking about LeBron James's watch collection. And not just covering what the collection is, which we will do. By the end of today's episode, you're going to really get a comprehensive idea of just how much money this guy has. And frankly, incredible watches. And we're going to go into detail and you're going to learn a lot. But I think like on a more like, mustardy level, like on a more like philosophical level, I'm actually a little bit of a conspiracy theorist that LeBron James is an industry plant, that LeBron James's existence in the watch community is functionally as a billboard, not for one brand, but I think it's extremely possible that the industry, all the brands, AP, Patek, Rolex, everyone, they understand there's a common good in the world, almost like a lobby, right? Like the cigarette lobby. And they're saying, if we can get this guy and other folks too, to promote hype watches, he can keep all the hype watches cool, no matter the class or money.
Yes.
And we will all, as brands, be stronger for it. I am not fucking trolling you. I think that LeBron James is actually an industry plant. I think he's a billboard. I think he is. I think it's not real. I think we're living in a simulation.
But like, isn't that in a sense smart business for these watch brands? You have one of the most recognizable, if not one of the greatest basketball players of all time. That is. It makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense. I'm not saying it's bad business, my guy. It's great business.
Okay. I think you're giving me a conspiracy theory right now.
No, conspiracy theories don't mean that it's bad. Do you know what a conspiracy theory means? What I'm saying is that it's a conspiracy among the brands.
Oh, the brands. Okay.
For their good.
I wasn't paying attention.
For their good. Okay. But what is their good, right? When it comes to hype watches, it's your bad. Right? It means that these brands collaboratively can make things so overpriced because they're paying LeBron James that you can't afford even the simplest of pleasures in the watch world, right? And I've got, frankly, a substantial amount of evidence, to support this fact or this conspiracy.
So when I was prepping for this conversation, I was not expecting that from you. Yeah. I was thinking that it was more, and I was going to ask this question, but you answered it.
What is
that? Is sorry, bud. So you don't think that it's like local ADs to his area or a specific watch trader, whatever, that is presenting him these watches?
No. I think it's the brands.
Could be. I don't know.
I think the watch brands are in many ways like, what did George Carlin always say, right? You don't need a conspiracy in a back room for a bunch of different individuals to act in a common interest.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
AP doesn't need to be talking to Rolex and talking to Patek. They can all just kind of be acting in self-interest. And the common interest is making sure that these brands' watches are unattainable.
Yep.
And that they sell on the gray market for numbers that are insane. Multiples of retail. And I have evidence to prove it. And I think that another interesting part of this conversation is going to be this idea of collector versus aficionado. Now, aficionado is a bit of an obnoxious term, and we're going to get into this conversation towards the end, right? Towards the theory and the support of my personal conclusion. But aficionado is an obnoxious word, but I think it's meaningful. I know it exists more in the cigar world because that's the brand of the magazine. But I think that this conversation needs to be brought there in the watch world a little bit more often. Okay, because in the watch world, there's a hell of a lot of people that just have a lot of freaking money that own everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. God bless them; they earned it. LeBron James earned every dollar he has. Not a question about it. I don't like the guy, but God bless him. God bless him. Okay, but I refuse to allow the word collector to be a blanket term that describes such a wide group of people. Gotcha. I think it needs to be collectors own. Aficionados understand.
I agree.
Regardless of their income and regardless of their watch assets, their watch collection. We'll talk more about that later. let's start off with Richard Mille.
Yes.
Okay. How much do you know about Richard Mille?
I just know that they're all about $500,000, and to me, it's a hype beast brand. That's my outside view.
Congratulations. You know everything there is to know about Richard Mille.
Bat 1,000, baby.
You're batting 1,000 right now. You can miss a couple of swings and you'd be Pete fucking Rose. Okay, just don't bet on it. You're right. Richard Mille. Listen, I'm not going to get into the technical, supremacy of Richard Mille. Richard Mille watches, in my view, are overhyped. They're overpriced. But they understood, in a very similar way that Rolex did, just a different scale, the human kind of condition.
Yeah.
Right. Richard Mille understood that a $350,000 or $500,000 watch, right, a watch that just is so remarkably expensive, okay, needs to be so obviously different.
Yes.
Now, why didn't I use the word better? Because better is more of a measurable term.
Yes.
And you're only going to measure something if you have information on it.
Yeah.
But if it's different enough and you kind of just like fudge like the facts,
yep,
it becomes speculation and it's different and it's hype.
Yes.
They understood that. Like, how much do you know about the whole, I know zero, about like Supreme, Kith. Are those things better or are they just branded?
Oh, it's branded. It's branded Supreme, which is why it's more expensitive.
And I know that I know that I'm not professionally on a full-time basis, but you come from the DJ world. Like, are the most famous DJs, like, are they as good as their fame all the time, or are they bringing in ticket sales because they're famous?
Latter. Ticket sales. That's why they're famous.
Is that discouraging?
And
again, Sam DJs.
Yeah, I DJed for 15 years. I still do for 15 years.
Exactly.
It's discouraging, but it is discouraging. But you just got to realize that the game is not being a good DJ; it's bringing people in a door,
which is
it's all marketing. It's a terrible realization because I hate marketing.
and you spend with DJing or with watchmaking, yep, or with woodworking, with anything, filmmaking, you spend your whole life trying to perfect the craft, but because you think that it's going to get you to the big money, and yet, unless you've developed like this system, this big funnel of kind of hype,
yeah,
it's not going to yield arbitrage. You're not going to, you're not going to be the highest paid. You're not going to be in the most demand, no matter how good you are.
Of course,
right? I think it's really positive in the watch industry right now that you've got a lot of brands that are getting a lot of attention. Independents, micros, on the big end, on the really expensive end. I don't mean on the affordable end, and that's great. That's great. I'm glad. Right? These are examples. Reshepi, Japek, obviously Roger Smith, obviously Philippe Dufour. That's, whatever. I think that Resins is a good example. A lot of independent brands, Atelier de Chronometrie, right? All these different brands. They're great examples of like, you guys are small, right? Yeah. Relatively speaking, but you're really good and you get the credit you deserve.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works. Always,
exactly.
Right? Like being really good doesn't always make you like,
famous, rich.
100%. I think that one of the greatest things, like, and I've realized this kind of recently, is that, I think one of the most things that I'm proud of is like, I've kind of made a career in writing. We were talking about this the other day, like, and that's a really cool thing. That's a hard thing to do.
Of course.
Like, I'm not as smart as like an investment banker. Like, I don't make investment banking money. God knows those guys are super rich, right? But like to make a career out of something that doesn't necessarily like actually pay well.
Of course.
It's like kind of cool, right? Like same thing with music. It's kind of difficult. Anyway, the point we're trying to illustrate is Richard Mille is overhyped.
So the question that I have for you about them is at what price point do you think that watch should be if you had to put an estimate on it? Yeah,
it's a tough question. Like, I'll give you some context. Like, since COVID, Richard Mille prices have fallen between 30 and 45%.
Jeez.
That's significant.
That's wild.
And we're talking about like starting from $350,000 to $500,000. So like that, you're not losing $6,000.
Yeah, exactly.
You're losing over $100,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, and keeping in mind, a lot of those folks that bought those watches, were not just buying them to keep them. They were like, oh, these are crazy. You make a lot of money. You could buy it for 6 months, wear it for 6 months, and then sell it and make some money. So the Richard Mille, okay, move back to LeBron James. Enough about the ether, right? Back to LeBron James. His Richard Mille watch collection is not enormous. I think he's got 2, maybe he's got more. In fact, I'm sure he's got more, but these are the 2. This watch doesn't tell me all too much about LeBron James. These watches don't tell me that much about who he is as a human being. They tell me that he's a rich guy.
Yes.
That like kind of wants a cool thing. There's no problem with that. The Richard Mille watches do not prove to me that he's an industry plant, right? These watches do not say to me that he either is or is not an aficionado. Not enough information, right? Now let's go into his Rolex collection. So there are 3 watches here, and I'm going to start off with the first. The first 2 are the wild ones, right? And then the third, I think, is the most important to talk about that really begins to prove my point about him being an industry plant. The first 2 are the Daytona Eye of the Tiger, okay, which is this yellow gold Rolex Daytona, which is impossible to get essentially, on an Oyster Flex bracelet with a diamond pavé and maybe onyx inset. I really don't know, but this diamond pavé dial, okay, in this tiger pattern.
And the dial is just wild.
First of all, let's start with: do you like this watch?
No.
Right. There you go.
I'm not a big diamond guy on watches. And there's a lot going on, and it's not balanced. It's a little over. They overdid it. I think it's too much. The retail price on this watch is $90,000, and the secondary market value is $300,000. Yep. Okay, so here we had Richard Milles that have since cut down by between 35 and 45%, right, since COVID, 30-45% since COVID, and yet these watches, keeping in mind like we're backdating it, those watches have fallen, but they had risen. Astronomical. Yeah.
Right? So big arbitrage there. With 90 to 300,000 is a significant price jump. Right? I mean, come on. $90,000 is a lot of money. $300,000 is otherworldly.
Of course.
Okay. Now, how about the puzzle dial Rolex Day-Date? This is a watch that retailed for $61,000, and there is no information at the moment on the secondary market about the value. Right? I don't know the value. I would say $150,000 to $200,000 for this watch, which is an astronomical amount of money for what I think is a pretty ugly watch. Do you think that this is forget the money, a good-looking watch?
It's not my style. I prefer the Celebration.
The OP?
Yes.
At a much more affordable price point.
What's the OP at?
$6,000.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a stainless steel Oyster Perpetual.
Jesus.
This is $61,000.
I mean, what are you paying for with this watch?
Well, in the defense of the puzzle, it's an enamel dial. It's a solid yellow gold case. I get that there's a price difference. I agree with you that the Celebration is way cooler.
I agree.
In fact, Michael's on a list for a Celebration somewhere in America.
Yes, that's true.
No one exactly knows where. But it's never going to call. But it's technically speaking, it's out there. But I agree with you that it's cooler. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's a really big hype watch that, frankly, I think it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, I don't love it.
I'm seeing LeBron James with it. I'm seeing Tom Brady with it. I think that these watches are being planted on the wrists of influencers.
Well, isn't that also like the
I don't think any of these guys like this watch.
Probably not.
It's an ugly watch.
I just the whole collection there's a lot, and there's some that I love, but like the 2 that you just mentioned are just like, I don't know, doesn't do it for me.
Right.
I find it hard to believe. I know he has so much money, but like he spent $300,000 on a watch that's worth $90,000. That's not.
I can understand it because, again, when you've got so much money,
I get it.
It doesn't even compute. At the end of the last Hodinkee Talking Watches with John Mayer and Ed Sheeran,
true.
They went out and bought $500,000 APs. They don't care.
No, of course.
Like as my cousin Nikki, your cousin Nikki at this point would say, to these people, it's not money, it's paper. They just move a number from one piece of paper to another piece of paper. It's not really money. They didn't work for it, because it just came in so quickly. Just, what is it? They say, so slowly, and then all of a sudden it's an overnight success, right? But still, like, it's a lot of, they have so much money that they can kind of just drop silly numbers. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Fake Fragrance. Sam, I know that I can't smell, but you have enough nose for the 2 of us. What's incredible about Fake Fragrance is, and I know that you and I both agree on this because we've talked about it multiple times, we both like to spend money on luxury products. Yes, we enjoy the finer things in life. Sure.
Yes.
Fragrance is one of those things that just gets really expensive for something you're just, I don't know.
And I don't know why it gets so expensive.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like, fragrances from all these big brands that smell beautiful. And I understand why they're expensive because they smell beautiful and that's great. But I don't know. I've always looked at it as a waste of money, and I've never bought it. Like I've never spent hundreds of dollars, like $400 or $500 on all these designer fragrances. Yep. Fake Fragrance has come to the market with a total solution. Okay. Essentially, I know it sounds terrible, but like the reality is they do replica fragrances. They take, they inspect, they download, they understand the fragrance from the world's most important manufacturers, and then they literally remanufacture it. They reverse engineer it. And I know that sounds weird from someone that would never wear a fake watch. I get that. But the reality is I think the 2 things are very, very different. I think that smelling nice is just nice. I'm sorry. I don't think that wearing a fake Rolex is a good thing. I don't think it makes you look good. I think it makes you look dumb. Smelling great.
Yeah.
Smelling as great as humanly possible at an affordable price, especially.
Yep.
Come on.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. So I highly suggest you all go take a look at fake fragrance, really, and use the code Theo Harris for 20% off your order. You can click the link down below. Again, I don't buy fragrance because it's too expensive, but fake fragrance is the solution. Let's go take a look. The next watch I think is really interesting, and it's the Coral. Okay?
Yes.
This is a $6,000 Oyster Perpetual watch and he's at the Tiffany as well.
Yep.
Okay. The Coral, and they're both $6,000.
Yes.
Basically. The Coral, I think, went up to like 15.
Okay.
The maybe even more, maybe COVID 18. Mm-hmm. Tiffany went to like 45.
Gotcha.
How many folks bought them in 40s? I don't know. But a lot of folks bought them in the 30s. I know the people that bought them in the 30s. Mm-hmm. A lot of people. So the question is, I guess, on a fundamental level, like, do you believe that the kind of guy that wears Richard Mille and super precious diamond, sapphire Rolexes, not to mention the APs and the Pateks we're going to get to in a second, mm-hmm. do you think that guy is going to be regularly wearing Oyster Perpetuals from Rolex?
So now that you started off with this being kind of an industry conspiracy,
yep.
I could see it. And I think that it would, the way that it makes sense in my mind is that if you're going to get a watch like that, when you have the $500,000, the $300,000 watch, you're spending all this money, maybe those were, I don't know what the kickback looked like, but there might have been some exchange of cash to get the watch.
No, I agree with that.
So maybe this is what he likes. I don't know LeBron James enough.
I think that I doubt that.
You could, I could be wrong.
I doubt that because, so then what? So then LeBron James is the only guy in pop culture that, lives in a mansion and likes everything hypey and drives Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis, but he's an OP guy?
I have no idea.
I know, but what do you think?
I mean, obviously it doesn't add up.
I don't know either.
But, it doesn't add up.
Doesn't add up.
Nothing. And the whole collection doesn't add up.
I smell a rat. Okay. I just don't think that the guy that wears the RMs and those Rolexes, again, not to mention the Pateks and the APs we're going to get to in a second.
Yep.
I don't think that guy wears multiple OPs often. And he's photographing them often. I think that is a big red flag. I think that tells me that it's like, wait, so you happen to just suspend all of the rules of your collecting to buy these two little steel watches because you like the colors? No, I don't think so. Everything else in your life needs to be special and expensive, but then all of a sudden you buy these two hype Rolexes. I could see very logically him being like, yeah, I want the Coral, I want the Tiffany. I'm going to give them away. Give them to my niece, give them to my nephew. I want the people around me to wear hype watches that are more appropriate with their level. I could see that.
That's fair.
But himself, I don't buy it.
All right.
Now let's get into the APs. Okay. And I'll run through them. Got a Black Panther. I think one of the dumbest watches of all time.
I was just going to ask for what you thought about that watch.
Do you like that watch?
I love that it's purple because I like the color purple. That's about it.
That's it. That watch is, I think, ridiculous.
Any superhero, didn't they make a Spider-Man one too? I just don't love that either. And maybe I'm not a big comic book guy. I don't know.
But don't you just think that superheroes belong on swatches and bullshit? What are we doing?
Yeah, the only thing that I would like is what's the Omega with Snoopy on it. That's like
but that's Omega, but it's not $30,000. It trades for that on the secondhand market.
No.
And
But all I was going to say is that's appropriate in my mind. That makes sense.
Well, do you know the whole story with that? Is the Silver Snoopy Award is the award?
Yes,
right. So it makes there's some.
That's why I enjoy it.
Cultural foundation to it. Black Panther, Spider-Man.
It's like, let's just take a superhero and put it on a $60,000 watch.
60
to start?
No, 167.
No, but making it 167. What's that?
No, 167, 400, my man.
Jesus Christ.
$400,000.
This guy's got too much money.
This guy's got too much money. Okay. The next watch I think is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. This is the Audemars Piguet Jumbo in yellow gold.
That is a beautiful watch.
Dial. This I believe that he would buy. I actually believe he'd buy the Black Panther too because I think he has no taste. But this is perfect. I think that the Coral OP and the Jumbo Vignette is a perfect 2-watch collection. One beater, right? You're a bracelet guy. One beater, one luxury. Boom.
As your grandfather would say, that AP is class.
AP is class.
That's a beautiful watch.
That vignette dial is unbelievable.
It's gorgeous.
That is unbelievable. That watch retails for $70,500 and trades for $225,000. So if you thought the $70,000 was bad,
yeah.
Good luck saving $225,000. It's a lot of money.
Of course.
It's kind of unattainable, right? For most folks, it's a little ridiculous. Some guys sitting at home like, not attainable for me. The next watch is a sapphire tourbillon in rose gold. Cool watch. I like it. I like the unjeweled time only better.
Yes.
I think it's a classier watch. I like it better. And the other watch he wears is the Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar in blue ceramic.
I like that watch.
I love it.
But again, like if the collector in me is saying like the Zenith Defy.
Because you're thinking budgetarily.
Yeah, of course. Right. Because I have a budget.
Right. Oh, me too. God, me too. Right. If you like this AP, if you like the AP ceramic in blue, perpetual, it's beautiful. I love the color too.
It's gorgeous.
And let's get real. What you like about it is the fact that it's like this bright blue matte watch. That's what's cool about it. Everything else you can kind of like, it's cool, but come on. The Zenith, you're 100% right.
That's a gorgeous watch too. And again, at the price point.
At the price point, well under $10,000.
Yeah.
I think it's $6,000, somewhere around $6,000.
Yep.
Phenomenal watch, beautiful color. I totally get it. In fact, that's a watch that you like.
Oh yeah,
would wear the shit out of.
100%.
100%.
I destroy it in like 2 weeks though.
Well, you would wear the
ceramic scares me.
Well, because it's going to break.
Yeah.
Well, ceramic's pretty brittle, isn't it?
Isn't it? I mean, that's what I've heard.
Brittle, yeah. What would you break it on?
Countertops. I don't know. Tables.
Countertops.
Bars.
Thank you. You're like Jimmy Fallon. You're going to wake up, there's this massive split in your head and be like, I fell rehearsing comedy. Okay. I agree with you on that. I think it's a great watch. The retail is $109,000. They sell for $400,000. Ridiculous markup. Again, saying that AP does this as industry plants, not even controversial.
Yeah.
AP's a scumbag company so far as, like allocating watches and backdooring watches directly from Switzerland to major influencers do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Which brings us to the last category of our conversation, which is maybe the most scumbaggy watch out there. If you love watches like I do, if you think that they mean something more than the time, then head on over to theoandharris.com and shop our selection of vintage watches and handmade straps. They're unique and they're special, and once they're gone for good. The Nautilus Tiffany Blue.
Yes.
What do you think about this watch?
My issue with this watch is the only people that I see wearing it are A-list celebrities. It's Tom Brady, it's Jay-Z, it's LeBron James,
DiCaprio.
DiCaprio.
It's the guy that Kris Jenner is hooking up with.
Who's that?
Some guy, big guy. I don't know.
That's my issue with that watch. It in nature, it's just a hype beast watch.
Yes.
Bothers me.
I also think like Patek as a company is generally like kind of an understated, underbranded, right? Like, look at the Tiffany stamps are so small. Yeah. Then they did this collaboration with Tiffany, with the Arnauds. And the only reason I'm saying the Arnauds is the owners is because, Bernard wore like this perpetual with really big. I don't think that ever would have happened. I don't think that the Tiffany Nautilus in that blue ever would have happened under the previous Tiffany ownership.
Gotcha.
I don't think they had as Mo Green would say, you don't got the muscle. I don't think they had the muscle to pull off that deal to kind of bring Patek to their knees. I don't know what that deal looked like. I don't understand the intricacies of that deal. I have no clue. But I do not think that ever would have happened under the old Tiffany ownership. Mm-hmm. Under the new Tiffany ownership, a much more powerful Tiffany ownership, these things happen.
Gotcha.
Even Patek Philippe can bend a knee, which is exactly what happened. Okay, Michael and I talked about pretty recently, John Mayer and Ed Sheeran being embarrassed that they wore that watch.
Yeah,
because it's kind of weird. It's kind of cringy.
Especially when the only people wearing it are A-list celebrities. It's like that's who wears it. That's it.
And it's generic. It's not special. It's limited, but it's not special.
The other Patek that he has in his collection, that one I love.
The Celestial.
Yes.
Now, that's a watch collector's watch.
That's a cool watch.
That is the one watch, that I'll say, that watch retails for $331,000. Mm-hmm. Secondary market is also like $350,000, which means you can probably get it like $340. There's no premium on that watch. That is the watch.
That's a beautiful watch.
This whole collection that I say, maybe he likes watches?
Yeah.
Every other watch, I'm like, I don't know. You have fun with this as a thing. But on the other hand, maybe Jay-Z wears a Celestial. Maybe he called up Jay-Z and was like, yo, I'm into watches now. What should I get? And Jay-Z was like, get this. You're all up. You're doing the wrong thing. Because Jay-Z is, in my eyes, famous for doing the right thing in watches.
Yeah.
That guy loves watches in a very real way. Like, he called up Ben Clymer years ago and was like, what do I wear to this? Like it was Grammys or something. And he told him like a rose gold Reverso, and Jay-Z wore it.
That's
like
sick. Jay-Z
has class. Jay-Z has intelligence. Jay-Z has, you know what? Now enter the second half of the end of the conversation. Jay-Z has intelligence. Jay-Z is a thoughtful human being. Whether you like Jay-Z or not, Jay-Z is thoughtful. Jay-Z is a writer. Whether you like his music or not, Jay-Z, in my opinion, or in my experience, or my witness, has never been caught like a fool in public, pretending that he knew more than he does.
Of course.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up and bringing up how much I dislike LeBron James, because I do, and I would talk about this on other medium, is because I think it's relevant to the conversation. Okay. I find it very, very hard to believe that someone that is so publicly known and publicly caught, okay, as a pseudo-intellectual, self-important liar, okay, has this sort of watch collection by his own volition. Or rather, I guess he could have his own volition because you just buy things in the dark, just buy them blind, get so much money. But like that he actually knows anything about these watches. I have a hard time believing that the guy's got a fucking opinion that is more than 25 seconds on anything here that is in any way specific. Okay, I wrote a list here between the times that he's been caught lying about his knowledge about Malcolm X, about running backs on the NFL, between the Godfather, between Liverpool, I'm sorry, tight end, not running backs, between Liverpool, okay, the soccer club. This guy has been made a fool, in my opinion, and on the opinion of social media, right? Who made me aware of this, right? It more than anyone that I've ever seen in pop culture. And the reason that it's so bothersome is because he pretends as if he knows. Being ignorant, I don't care. You're a basketball player. You are brilliant in that. Who's good at two things? I don't know. Yeah. God bless you. You're a brilliant basketball player. But you are pretending to be something that you are not.
Well, and
you have a history of lying, a track record of lying, and I think your watch collection is a lie.
Going off of that, like it's funny when you say that. I feel like looking at that watch collection, it's like if I put into ChatGPT, like I have $3 million to spend on watches. What brands do I buy?
What watches do I buy?
It's like Rolex, AP, Patek.
100%.
Am I missing anything?
And they'll probably tell you those exact watches.
Exactly.
They'll be like, yeah.
It doesn't thrill me as a watch collection.
What are the hype watches to buy?
Exactly. And a Richard Mille. Like that's what would come back from ChatGPT.
100%.
There's no individuality. Not maybe there is. Maybe I just find it hard to believe.
The watches are rare, but they're very predictable that he owns. It's very predictable that he owns them.
But they're rare because of the value, I feel like.
Well, I mean, they do it on purpose because they want to, listen, the brands want this.
Of course.
The brands want 167 to be 400. It's a marketing thing.
I get it.
They want 90 to be 300 because the more that happens on the secondary market, the more they can gouge you on an 1159.
Yeah.
Right? The more they can, gouge you on a Patek that you don't want. Right? I'm not saying that Patek is complicit in all this. I think that AP is most likely complicit. I definitely think that. I still can't explain the Rolex OPs and Corals. I think that there's something's up there. I mean, unless he's just trying to play humble for a second. I think at least AP for AP. I would bet any amount of money on this.
Yep.
The guy's a fucking plant. Period. End. And I think unlike Kevin Hart, who went on Hodinkee, and Michael and I have talked about this. Unlike Kevin Hart, who is an intelligent guy.
Yep.
Right. Kevin Hart's super smart. Yeah. Right. Again, he's a writer. Maybe I have a fondness for writers. Right. Kevin Hart is super smart. Will say in an interview like, "Yeah, I'm actually like." Even though AP pays him, he's an AP partner, and he admits it.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, I wish I could wear other stuff, because like, I love AP, but like,
I'm
a little bit
tied up,
a little bit bored.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that guy knows what he's talking about. He has no interest apart from his self-interest of like, obviously he's a sponsor, so he's tied into a contract. That guy does not pretend to be something that he's not or know something that he doesn't. Of course. He takes a very humble approach to, I think, just like his public persona. Yeah. Relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. He knows he's good at comedy, but other than that, I think he's pretty fucking cool. Whereas LeBron is just this, incessant schmuck, and it never stops. And I think that that is it. Watches are hard to understand, right? Like wine, like cars, they're hard. And there's nothing wrong with liking them on a superficial level. Of course. I have no problem with that. LeBron can go to the store and buy all these hype watches and just be like, honestly, I just kind of dig them. I don't know. Like, it was shiny. Yeah. It was shiny, and some guy told me that it mattered in the 70s. I don't know. I like it. I love wearing it. It's super comfortable. I think it's fucking cool, and everyone compliments me on it. I love that vibe. Yeah. That's a humility vibe. Yeah. That's not LeBron James. No. It's not LeBron James. If you asked him, I would bet you dollars to donuts, which is an expression I haven't said in a while. If you asked him in a press conference, are you? I've noticed you have to tee him up. You have to trap him a little bit because otherwise he'll catch the trap, right? Like, I've noticed you wear a lot of really incredible watches. Like, are you a watch lover? Mm-hmm. He'll be like, yeah, I'm a really big watch lover. So you say, great. Can you explain to me what you find interesting with a watch on your wrist? Nothing. Slippery fucking eel.
And that's what I love about collecting and buying watches is the stories that you create either when purchasing it or over time of wearing it. And that's what I love about listening to people talk about their collections or why they got XYZ watch. And I feel like that's all lost in this instance. And it kind of takes me out of it. I don't really care as much.
100%.
Because of that.
It makes it seem like this is one big, like again, LeBron James isn't the only perpetrator. It's like a million people. But of course, it's just pop culture is like one big joke on the watch collector. Yeah. Like the watch collector that's like, I don't know, I really want a fucking Coral OP. Yeah. I want a $6,000 cool Rolex. Can't have that now? Because now they just couldn't let me alone. They couldn't leave me alone. Like I can't. Okay, great. What do I get now?
And also, how lucky? Because how many people do you know that maybe they don't have LeBron James money, but have millions and millions of dollars, and an AD is like, yeah, spend like $3 million on jewels, and then I'll even try to consider it.
I've heard up to $1 million on jewelry to be allocated watches, and I'm like, hey. Do you think you're being taken for a sucker? Like I've said to guys before, I'm like, at work, you're such a shark. You're such a shark. Yeah. And yet here you're a sucker. Why? And they're like, oh, the watch is great. I'm like, but is it $1 million great? Like, well, I got jewelry too. I'm like, and what's that jewelry worth? And were you going to buy it regardless? Yeah. Because don't you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm a big advocate for, if you want a watch, there's nothing wrong with giving a jewelry store your loyalty. Yeah. Buying your engagement ring from them. Buying your wife gifts from them. No problem. Yeah. But to be extorted? Why? Because LeBron James wore it on court? Fuck off. Shut up. I wouldn't even want to be associated with this ignoramus.
So to kind of wrap this up, what watch would you keep? What are the if you had to pick 3 watches out of that collection, what are you going with?
Well, I think the perfect 2-watch collection is actually the Coral OP and the Jumbo Vignette. Okay. I think those 2 watches are essentially flawless. Those are the 2 watches that I would keep if I had to keep 2. The Celestial Patek, the one that you love, is the best watch here by far.
Of course.
Not even close. It's not my style, and I don't think he picked it out. And I'm not saying you have to pick out your own shit. Like when you're famous and you're uber wealthy, like you don't pick out your own shit a lot of time. People pick it out for you. I get that. But I'm also not going to give you credit for being like a hyper-intelligent watch.
Yeah, exactly.
You own something hyper-intelligent, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was at someone's apartment a couple of years ago, and I complimented one of the books on their shelves, and they were like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm like, you didn't read that? And he's like, the interior decorator put it there, man.
I appreciate it, though.
No, I appreciated that he said that.
Yeah, of course.
It was honest, how honest he was. But I'm like, I don't know. I just don't see myself doing that. I don't see myself putting a bunch of books on a shelf that I don't know what they are, and I haven't read them. I just don't see that happening.
It's because you're nuts.
You know what I mean? I feel like it's dishonest.
Yeah, it is. I don't read that much, so I could see myself. I don't know, I've read enough books. I put those up.
What books? Judy B. Jones?
Great Gatsby. No.
Remember
that? Judy B. Jones.
No, remember the Great Gatsby joke? Tell the Great Gatsby story. With Allie.
When I was in high school, I was talking with this girl, and long story short, I knew nothing of what to talk about. We were talking about like jazz or whatever, and I was like, yeah, like Ella Fitzgerald. I had no idea where to go with this conversation, so I shoot Chris a text and go, or Christian a text and go, what do I follow up with? And he goes, speaking of Ella,
I was also trying to hook up with this girl.
Yes, and you succeeded.
I did. It was a blast. Summer of my life.
Anyway, you were like, Ella Fitzgerald. What about F. Scott Fitzgerald? She was a huge Great Gatsby fan.
She and I were good friends.
Which makes sense why they ended up.
So I was leveraging the intel. So I told her, I told you, tell her you like F. Scott Fitzgerald.
And it was a huge hit.
But come on. What did I then say?
I forgot.
Say if she's going to ask you which book.
Oh, say anything but Great Gatsby. And my dumb said Great Gatsby.
I was like, dude, tell her Mayday. Mayday is a short story about F. Scott Fitzgerald that either she knows and she's going to be like, wow, Sam's so cool, or she's going to pretend to know.
Exactly.
You've created deference.
Yep.
Can't win.
I ended up being honest.
You were like, Great Gatsby. And she was like, oh, Great Gatsby's a great book, but that wasn't the answer to what you needed.
I still think I got game.
That's it. LeBron James is an industry plant and he's a fraud. And I think that at a bare minimum, AP is paying him to wear these watches. I think Patek's probably above that, but they're not above collaboration with Tiffany where they bent the knee, which is super embarrassing. Mm-hmm. Talk about an industry icon like this, incredible icon, just totally, embarrassing themselves. And LeBron James is a schmuck. And I think that we solved today's problems.
Before we go, speaking of Patek, walk me through the blue Patek in Teenage Shop.
That's a really nice one. So that's
very affordable for a Patek, I feel.
Yeah, it's it's a little over $10,000, and it's called a gondolo, and it kind of like lives in that ellipse family. Dress watch, blue, yellow, gold. What's beautiful about this watch, not only the manually wound movement and the solid gold case and the piercing blue dial, which is just classic Patek, but what this gondolo has over the ellipse model category as a general rule is there has never been an ellipse, in my view, that is so perfectly sized for modernity.
Gotcha.
Right? The vintage ellipses are small. Mm-hmm. Even for me, I love them, but they're small. And the modern ellipses are very large, way too large for most people's wrists. This gondola, specifically this model, right, that's available in the shop right now, is so modern. So it's like this 70s-esque design, right? Because it's got this almost TV kind of feeling, but it's so modern. It's large. It's substantive. I could put this on the wrist of almost any average, like modern watch enthusiast, and no one's going to say, it's so small, which is the main criticism about vintage watches.
Gotcha.
And people want to get into vintage Patek because it's so freaking amazing, but so many of them are small. This watch is not only solid gold and beautifully manually wound and serviced and a blue dial, but it's freaking big. I can't get over this watch. I love this watch. I literally stare at this watch. I've taken so many wrist shots of this watch. I can't even begin.
What I love about that watch too is when you look at the price point and then you look at some tanks or Piagets, it's like, I don't know, you spend another $4,000 or $5,000 and you have a Patek.
100%. You spend, even with comparing Cartier to Patek, I mean, apples to apples, you're spending an extra $2,000 and you're getting, with Piaget, they're less expensive, but Cartier to Patek is like $2,000 in this instance, or like $3,000. And it's like, wow, I love Cartier, but honestly, the Cartiers you're going to get at $9,000, again, mechanical, oversized, are kind of generic, and this Patek is
it's unique,
so special. Not to mention the fact that it's Patek Philippe,
of course.
Just like if there's one watch brand that survives the apocalypse, everyone kind of hopes it's them, or at least their vintage catalog. Yeah. So that's a great watch. And that's it. So go ahead and take a look at the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop for all of your vintage watch needs. Patek, Rolex, Tudor, Omega, etc. I hope to see you on over there. And if you're not in the market for a watch right now, definitely go take a look at the Strap Shop, which is constantly stocked with beautiful handmade straps. And finally, last but not least, if you'd like more content, head on over to The Zero and join our community. We post podcasts every single week. We do live watch once a month. Michael comes on once a month. We have industry guests. Sam comes on every once in a while with a couple of drinks. And we really have unfiltered conversation about the watch industry and watch collecting, right? It's not just about gossip. Yep. It's about our personal experiences that we just don't have time to share here on YouTube. So I hope to see you guys on over at the Zero. And if I do see you on over there, even if it's on a 7-day free trial, it doesn't matter to me. Shoot me a DM. I'd love to strike up a conversation and get to know you. See you on over there.
See you.
The watch on your wrist, unlike your iPad, will mean something to someone one day if it doesn't already. Something that will make them smile, walk a little taller, surely at some point cry, but it will mean something.